Hey guys, thanks for joining the Revived IT YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about some baseline Microsoft 365 security policies. Now, for these policies to work, you will need a Microsoft Entra ID P1 license at minimum. However, in saying that, I can assure you that you will see a great return on investment in terms of security. If you do invest in a Microsoft Entra ID P1 license, or if you move on to a business license that actually includes that component. Now, today we will be going over these baseline security policies, and then I will also take you over a few tips and tricks and some tools that Microsoft themselves have offered for our disposal to actually promote the use of these security policies and these changes within your organization. So without taking up more time, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. So firstly, let's go ahead and set up Microsoft self-service password reset. First, to do that, you'll need to jump into the Entra Admin Center, so entra.microsoft.com, and then pick your account. And then what you're going to do is you are going to jump into password reset. Now in your case, if you do have a select set of users that you want to use to test out self-service password reset, you can select selected group and select your test group, and you can roll it out to your test users. In my case, I've just got a small team, so I'm just going to roll it out for everyone. I've rolled it out in the past as well, so I'm aware of the impacts and what sort of communications I need to send out to my staff. So I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to jump into authentication methods. Under authentication methods, you can set the number of methods that you need, that a user needs to have registered to reset their password. In our case, I'm just going to stick to one, and I've selected security questions. You'll be able to customize the security questions as well. You can go for some predefined questions that Microsoft makes available. If not, if you want to do a custom question, you can do custom. Generally, the predefined ones are pretty good, so I stick to the predefined ones. And the number of questions required to register, so they need to answer or register 3 security questions. So that's that determines that. So if you want them to have more than 3 questions to register for, then you can 3, 4, or 5, you can just select appropriately. And then the number of questions that they need to answer to reset, again, if you need them to answer 3 questions to reset their password, you can select that. 4 or 5, you can select whichever fits your environment. And then the registration, require users to register when they sign in. So this generally what happens is, if they haven't registered for self-service password reset, once you do enable this, they will have to register for the security questions. They'll be prompted to do so, and every 180 days they will have to confirm their authentication methods are up to date and valid. So that's what, if you want to do a shorter time span, you can do a shorter time span, but yeah, this is where you would change that sort of thing. And then notifications. So do you want to notify your users on password resets? I tend to have that checked on. And then notify all admins when other admins reset their password. Right now I only got one admin, so I'm just going to leave that checked. But in your environment, if you do have more than one admin, I would highly recommend that you do enable this. Next, on jumping onto customization. Now if you have a customized help desk email or URL, this is the spot to put that in. So I'm just going to do support@revive.com.au. I'm going to hit save on that. In your case, you can do your help desk email or your help desk support portal, like a web URL. Now on-premises integration, that is for a hybrid environment. I won't be going over the hybrid stuff. I will only be doing this for a fully Entra joined or Entra managed environment. So that now goes ahead and it enables self-service password reset for your organization. Next, we will go ahead and set up our strong authentication. Now, one of the main things that I tend to do in Microsoft tenancies that I manage, or for clients that I manage, is I only allow the use of the Microsoft Authenticator app. The reason being, allowing options like SMS or phone call or third-party authenticator apps, I find they've been unsecure in the past. And when phone numbers can be spoofed and things like that, so I just generally tend to just allow the Microsoft Authenticator app only. So to do that, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go into authentication methods, and then you'll need to go into authentication strengths. And I like to set up my authentication strengths here, so I'm going to go new authentication strength, and then I'm just going to call this Microsoft Authenticator only. And then from the list, you'll have to go into password plus Microsoft Authenticator with push notifications, and then you can hit next on that, and you can hit create, and you'll notice that show up here. So that's that. Now once this is done, we will need to configure conditional access policy to enforce this. We will get to that in the next few steps, but before we go into that, what we're going to do next is we are going to configure our Microsoft Authenticator settings. So to do that, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go into your authentication methods again. So authentication methods down here, and then Microsoft Authenticator, target it to all users. If you want to just do it to a group, you can do select groups, and then let's go ahead and configure our Microsoft Authenticator options. So you want to allow the use of the Microsoft Authenticator OTP, so I've hit yes on that. Show application name in push and passwordless notifications. So this generally it will show the region a MFA request is originating from, so it'll include the region, and it'll also include the service that's actually trying to authenticate. So for an example, if you are trying to sign into Microsoft Outlook from Australia or from Sydney, it'll show up as the service originating from Sydney and trying to sign into the Outlook app or the Outlook web service. So you can hit enable on that, target it to all users. The same, so show geographic location in push and passwordless notification. So that's what we just discussed. So the geographic location. Microsoft Authenticator on companion applications. If you've used Gmail or Google in the past, when you try to sign into Google services, sometimes you do have to authenticate a two-factor authentication request on Gmail or YouTube. So likewise with Microsoft, you can do the same. So generally, I tend to have this off, but you can always select enable, and what that will do is it will allow end users to authenticate using apps like Microsoft Outlook to authenticate the two-factor authentication requests. Now once that's done, you can hit save, and now we've configured our Microsoft Authenticator settings as well. Next, I'm going to promote the use of the Microsoft Authenticator app across my organization, and the best way to do that is to actually run a registration campaign promoting the Microsoft Authenticator app. So to do that, first again you'll need to go into enter.microsoft.com, and then into authentication methods, and then registration campaign, and here you will edit your registration campaign settings. So I'm gonna set that to enabled, and I'm gonna allow it to be snoozed for 7 days. Let's say I want to promote this campaign, and after the 7th day I want staff to set up Microsoft Authenticator, and they won't be able to bypass it. After that 7 days, they will have to set up the authenticator, and then I want to also limit the number of snoozes. So once you set this up, they'll be allowed to skip setting up the Microsoft Authenticator for for 3 attempts, and then once the third attempt is done, they will have to set up Microsoft Authenticator. You can target it to a specific set of users, and if you have a test group, you can just roll it out to your test group. I am pretty confident on who I want to roll it out to, so I've just selected all users here. But if you want to exclude certain groups, you can always add them in here, and you can scope it out accordingly. So I'm going to hit save on that. Now we've set up a registration campaign to promote the use of the Microsoft Authenticator app as well. And let's jump into our conditional access policy to enforce Microsoft's two-factor authentication. To enforce the Microsoft's strong authentication policy, or to enforce your Microsoft Authenticator app only policy, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to set up a conditional access policy. To do that, you'll need to jump into the Microsoft Entra portal again and go into conditional access, and then you want to create a new policy. I'm going to call this Microsoft Authenticator MFA only, and I am going to assign it to all my users. Now just a reminder, it's probably best, if this is the first time you're setting up MFA policies, it's probably best you exclude your administrator account just to test out the policy, just to make sure it works. So I myself, I like to do that with every policy so that I can test it out. So I'm gonna exclude that, exclude my admin account, and then I'm gonna target this to all resources. Now if you want to exclude certain apps, you can also exclude it here. I don't want to specify any networks, any trusted networks or anything like that, so I'm going to skip that. No conditions at the moment. And next I'm going to go to grant, and then require authentication strength, and then I am going to select my Microsoft Authenticator only policy. I'm going to select that. You can set it to report only for about 2 or 3 days if you want to test it out, but since I've excluded my account and I am pretty confident on the impacts of this policy, I am going to switch this one on, and then I'm going to hit create. And once the policy has been created, once you verified that there's no negative impacts, you can go ahead and include any other accounts that you excluded during the testing phase, and that's now how you would set up your conditional access policy to enforce the use of the Microsoft Authenticator app only within your organization. Now another policy that I like to set up is the trusted locations policy. So this policy aligns with Microsoft's zero trust framework. So as a base level policy, I generally tend to roll this policy out to all clients that I manage, or within my own organization. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're first going to set up a trusted regions list or trusted locations list. So to do that, you'll need to go into the Entra portal again, conditional access, and then you'll need to go into name locations, and then I'm going to select countries location, and I am going to create a list of allowed countries. So let's do allowed regions. I only have staff in Australia, and most of my services are within Australia, so I'm gonna add Australia to the allowed list, and I'm not gonna add anything else to the allowed list. Now if you do have any other services that might be accessing your data from different regions, different parts of the world, then you probably want to consider them and allow those specific regions and countries as well, but for our purpose, this is fine for today. So I'm just going to refresh just to make sure the allowed regions are in there. Now I can see here the country has the list has appeared. Let's go ahead and set up a conditional access policy to enforce that as well. So I'm going to create a new policy, and then I'm gonna do trusted regions. You can give your policies a more meaningful name. In my case, I'm just gonna do this. Now, like I said with the previous policy, I always tend to exclude my administrator account, or just a break glass account that I might have just for testing purposes, and then once my testing is done, I'll always include that. Target resources, I'm gonna do all, and then for the network, I'm gonna select configure. This is where we would include or exclude allow lists or block lists or trusted regions and whatnot. So I am going to exclude my trusted regions. So I'm going to select exclude allowed regions. I'm going to save it, and the condition for this one is going to be a block condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select block, I'm going to select, and what this is going to do is it's going to check for if there is a user that this policy applies to, and then they're going to check if it is applying to any of the cloud apps in all resources, and then it is going to check if the user is part of the excluded or that excluded trusted regions list, and if it is excluded, then it won't block access. But if there's a login attempt that's not in this excluded or allowed regions section, then it will block access. So yeah, once that is done, you can leave it on report if you want to, and you can test out the policy if you need to, or you can go on and select create, and that will create your trusted regions policy. Next, let's go ahead and set up a policy to block legacy authentication. Now, most of these policies that I've been going through are automatically enabled as part of security defaults. Some of them yes, but some of them not. But let's jump into this. This is a policy that is also included as part of Microsoft security defaults. So let's go ahead and jump into this policy. So again, you'll need to go back into the Entra portal, conditional access, and then create new policy, and then I'm gonna say disable legacy auth. Again, all users, you can exclude your user just for testing, and then target resources, I am going to do all resources, then conditions, and then under client apps I'm going to configure legacy authentication clients, so you exchange active sync clients and other clients. Make sure you uncheck browser, mobile app, and desktop clients. Hit done, and then instead of granting control, we want to block access to any authentication attempts from legacy authentication methods. And again, you want to hit on and create the policy, and that should disable all legacy authentication methods in your Microsoft tenancy. Depending on how your environment is configured, you can also do one policy to only allow access from trusted devices. Now this policy again aligns with Microsoft's Zero Trust framework. If you've got an Intune environment where you manage devices, then I highly recommend that you do set this policy up. Regardless, if you don't have an Intune environment for any reason, but you can still go ahead and set this policy up to actually prevent access from unknown platforms or platforms that you don't expect end users to sign into Microsoft 365 services from. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, you'll need to jump into the Entra portal, go into conditional access, and then create new policy. And I'm going to say block unsupported platforms. Again, select all users. You can exclude yourself from this. Like I said, it's always good to have a break glass account for testing. And then I'm gonna do all resources, and then conditions and device platforms. I'm going to configure. Now I expect my users to be signing in on Windows, Android and iOS. So I am going to pretty much exclude these services from this policy because I am going to do a block policy. So I'm going to exclude Android, iOS and Windows. So I'm not going to allow Windows Phone, Mac OS and Linux. So I'm going to hit done on that, and then the control is going to be block access. So what this policy is going to do is it's going to check if anyone's assigned this policy, and then it's going to check which resource it's trying to sign into, and then it's going to check which platforms are included. So you can see here any devices included, but these devices are excluded. So Android, iOS and Windows is excluded, and then it will block access for devices that are included as part of this, as part of platforms, and it'll allow access on devices that are blocked on devices that are allowed. And you can go ahead and hit on, and you can create that, and that will create, you know, sort of a base level policy to allow trusted devices to access your Microsoft 365 services. Now, for any case, if you have a environment that, you know, has Intune mobile device management, you can go create new policy, and you can take this policy a bit, you know, step further. You can do intra join devices only. You can give your policy some name that's more meaningful. Again, like I did before, I'm just going to exclude myself for testing. I'm going to go all resources, and then under grant controls, you are going to configure this required device to be marked as compliant. Now, if you've got a hybrid environment, you can do you know, require Microsoft hybrid, intra-hybrid join device. Generally, you know, if you have an Intune environment, you can, you know, generally you'll have a compliance policy as well. So if you know, if you do have a compliance policy, you can go down this route, and you know, you can allow access using you know, devices that are marked as compliant only. Alternatively, if you don't have a compliance policy for any reason, I don't recommend you have an environment like that. You know, if you have Intune, it's always highly recommended that you have a compliance policy. But let's say for some reason you don't have a compliance policy, then you can use some of these device filter rules to actually let's say exclude filtered device from this policy. I'm gonna do join or MDM. Let's see. Yeah, I generally tend to do device ownership equals, and then I just do company, and that generally you know, does what I need to. But you can also check trust type. I believe trust type as well is one of the rules that you can use. You can do Microsoft intra-joined, and you can hit done on that. And what you want to do is you want to block access. So if you remember, we are going to be excluding devices that are intra-joined from this policy. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So what this is going to do is it's going to check if the user is part of this group, then it's going to check which resource they're trying to access. Then they're going to check if the device is part of excluded devices, or if the platform is part of included devices, and then it's going to block access if it's an included platform. and it will allow access if it's excluded from this list. You can hit on and create, and that should do your trusted devices policy as well. Thanks for watching the video today, guys. I hope you learned something, and I hope you do deploy some of these security policies in your organization. If you did learn something, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it amongst your organization, amongst your friends. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I'll include a bit of Microsoft Learn articles and resources in the description for some extra information. Thanks for watching the video again, and I'll see you guys next time.